Situated along the Neckar River in southwest Germany, Heidelberg is home to Germany's oldest university, founded in 1386. Spanning many centuries, the city is steeped in a rich tapestry of historical activity ranging from the constant power struggles and religious conflicts of medieval feudalism to Nazi occupation and eventual expulsion by the U.S. Army in 1945. Characterized by the Baroque architectural style of its Old Town district, the city's charm is unmistakable and lends itself to an effortless wandering of its streets and a perfect opportunity to sample the local fare and some world-renowned German beers.
It's a bit nutty. Another fantastic place to just watch the world go by. I just ordered a beer that comes served in, you guessed it, a bull's horn. I thought I had had Hefeweizen until I came to Germany. This is Hefeweizen. It's balanced and mild, but yet three-dimensional. Just a hint of fruit, not too malty, not too hoppy. This is good beer.
Across the river's Old Town Bridge is the popular tourist attraction called the Philosophenweg, or Philosopher's Path. It was a path frequented by scholars and members of the intelligentsia during the Middle Ages. Unbeknownst to me, I was actually just hiking up the Schlangenweg, or Snake's Path, that leads up to the Philosopher's Path. The Snake's Path slithered up the hill, its cobblestoned walls and floor meandering to and fro, like some fantasy set piece out of a Hollywood movie.
What kind of truck does a man drive in Germany? What do you think? Okay, I guess I'm just gonna play breakfast roulette then, because I have no idea how to read this menu. It turns out that I didn't have to play breakfast roulette after all, because the waitress not only spoke English, but they had an English menu. It was a great breakfast, but I paid over $5 for that bottle of water. So my friend Hannes that I met last night, he recommended that I try this stuff called currywurst. He said it's a traditional German dish. German sausage with ketchup and curry, fries, and this is some sort of like curry mayonnaise to dip the fries in. It wasn't the best meal I've ever had, but it wasn't the worst. Getting directions here is a funny thing. Even when people speak English, I get one set of directions from the lady at the hostel to go to a bakery for breakfast, and then I can't find it. Ask another guy who speaks English and get a completely different set of directions. I'm just gonna go wander around and find a place. Now I'm going to Schloss Heidelberg, and that would be Heidelberg Castle to the layman.
Confidently perched on the hill above, Heidelberg Castle is believed to have been built at the end of the 13th century and is the town's biggest attraction. It was home to many kings, dukes, princes, and counts, and like most other castles in the region, its ownership and control was held and fought over by many authorities across the centuries. It was partially blown up by the French in 1693, struck by lightning twice in a row in 1764, and after having been destroyed and rebuilt many times throughout its history, the castle remained primarily as a ruin until it was partly restored in 1900. It was written about by visiting authors such as Victor Hugo and Mark Twain, who described the castle in a travel book published in 1880. Nature knows how to garnish a ruin to get the best effect. She has robed the rugged mass in flowers and verdure and made it a charm to the eye. Misfortune has done for this old tower what it has done for the human character sometimes, improved it. As well as containing one of the world's largest apothecary collections displaying over 2,000 years of pharmacological development. The castle is also home to the world's largest barrel ever to hold wine, the Heidelberg Tun. No, not that one. That one. While it hasn't held wine for hundreds of years, this 23-foot wide and 27-foot tall cask built in 1751 is capable of holding over 58,000 gallons of wine and reportedly took 30 oak trees to construct. The night before I left, I treated myself to a massive cheeseburger and struck up a fun conversation about Formula One with a couple of guys at an adjacent table. One drink turned into 3 or 4, and our drunken camaraderie eventually manifested itself for me into another intoxicated display of mediocre prestidigitation. I capped off my night by watching barflies play cards and receiving quite an enticing travel tip scrawled on a coaster from a lovely woman at the bar.
Trying to catch my train that just didn't show up. The screen cycled to another train and another arrival time. So I'm scrambling around going, where's my train? Tell the lady who doesn't speak English that there was no train. She flipped out and I'm sitting there apologizing like I did something wrong. I gotta take a later train And it's fine, but it's gonna take me longer. Oh, and I just stepped in vomit too. I'm lounging in the first class car by myself, playing chess on the computer, and blissfully watching the serene and majestic German countryside pass me by. Now this is living. Just checked into my hostel, got to my room, and this is the view from my room. Simply breathtaking. I've been making plans for the next couple legs of my journey, doing some research online, and it's hot here in Stuttgart today, so I've had to keep this big window open. I've basically been killing flies all day. Oh no! Damn it! Gross. I looked up some things to do in Stuttgart, like botanical gardens and the tour of the city library. Nothing really piqued my interest, so because I'm leaving tomorrow, I think I'm just gonna go grab a late lunch and make some music in the bathroom. Here, let me show you what I'm talking about. We're at Füssen now. I'm trying to find my hostel based on some lady's broken English directions. Here we go. Oh, this is cute. I was just walking down this little avenue, stumbled upon my hostel. Let's go check in. I can't check in until 4 o'clock. Thankfully, I'm starving. I've noticed that at these German sidewalk cafes that you don't go up to the hostess desk or are seated by anybody. You simply sit down and wait for someone to notice that you're there. Sometimes it can take a while. Still though, the beer here is kind of unmatched. I don't even know what I ordered. The beer is called Kellerbier Naturtrüb, and I still don't know what it is. I ordered a dish called Jagerschnitzel, which is a broiled pork fillet with a mushroom sauce, and it's served with Spätzle, which is baked noodles, and it's delicious. Well, this is substantially more awesome than my last hostel. I'm right downtown Füssen along the main drag on the 2nd floor, and look at this view.
The travel tip I received from the woman at the bar in Heidelberg was to visit an irresistibly charming little town called Füssen, which is seated right at the foot of the Bavarian Alps, about a mile from the Austrian border. Perhaps the town's fairy tale-like setting is why Füssen is often referred to as the romantic soul of Bavaria. It was highly regarded as the cradle of lute making in Europe during the 18th century due to its high concentration of expert lute and violin makers at the time. Notable tourist attractions here include the flamboyantly decorated Benedictine Abbey and Basilica of St. Magnus.
I've been in Füssen for 4 days, and I had no idea that this was here.
And the High Castle of Füssen, which is a late Gothic-style castle completed in 1509.
So I'm just wandering around Füssen, taking photos, soaking it all up, and stumble upon this. I suppose they could be the remnants of a smaller castle. These are the kind of gems you find when you just go get lost in a town. This would have been the coolest spot to come drink beer with your buddies when you were a teenager. Exploring all these old castles and towns really sparks my imagination into thinking what life must have been like back in medieval times.
Füssen is settled along the banks of the Lech River, and most of my mornings here were started early to go visit the most popular attractions in the area, which were just a short bus ride away. Hohenschwangau Castle was first mentioned in 1397 and is most known for being a childhood summer residence for King Ludwig II of Bavaria, also known as the Swan King, the Fairy Tale King, and Mad King Louis. His ascension to the throne as King of Bavaria at age 18 in 1864 was followed shortly by the construction of a series of privately funded castles, his most ambitious of which began as an exercise in fairy tale-esque escapism. And while Germany is abundant with inspiration from stories of old, this next little world-class gem generated its own inspiration into fairy tales anew. Are you getting sick of castles yet? Me neither! Neuschwanstein Castle is a 19th century Romanesque revival palace sitting atop a rocky hill just above the castle of Hohenschwangau in the village of the same name. And as well as serving as the inspiration for Sleeping Beauty's castle at Disneyland, it is said to be one of the most spectacular and photographed castles in the world. While the castle was never fully finished and numerous rooms remain incomplete to this day, construction took place from 1868 to 1892. It was designed to capture the romanticism and visual appeal invoked by medieval knights' castles of centuries earlier, and while it looks just like a castle, it serves no purpose as an actual military defense fortress. Commissioned by the king in honor of his favorite composer and good friend, Richard Wagner, it was built as a sort of retreat for the eccentric Bavarian king from the trappings of kingly duties and political involvement, and as a residence for him to rebel against his fall from power after Bavaria fell under Prussian rule in 1866 following the Austro-Prussian War. Despite Neuschwanstein's size, it only contains lodging for the king and servants' quarters, and has foregone the typical space reserved for the royal court. King Louis did not utilize public funds to build Neuschwanstein and several other smaller palaces, so he accrued a massive amount of personal debt in order to finish the construction of the palace. In 1886, after being deemed mentally unfit to rule by a committee who had never even met him, he was deposed as king and mysteriously died just 3 days later, the cause of which is still debated. Neuschwanstein Castle sparks the imagination of almost 1.5 million visitors each year, making it one of the most popular tourist destinations in all of Europe. The audacious commitment and theatrical vision of King Ludwig serves to reinforce the existing fairy tale-like enchantment of this area that is as evident today as it was when the castle was built, and is to me a shining example of the pinnacle of human imagination.
You see all this stuff in here? You buy. I don't know. Seems like a pretty normal town to me. I don't understand what all the Füssen is about. I'm at the restaurant in front of my hostel. It's called Ludwig's. They don't just automatically bring you water. It seems like culturally, they're more likely to automatically bring you beer. I'm pretty sure my waiter hates me. He doesn't speak English, and when I asked him for a tap water, he said no. I ordered the meatloaf, and I was expecting something like, compressed ground beef. But what I got was much more akin to like a big square hot dog. It's not bad. Perhaps something got lost in translation. On recommendation from the nice lady at the deli, I ordered a classic Bavarian style ham sandwich. I get it back to my hostel and take a bite. This is not a ham sandwich. This is a hot dog sandwich. Maybe at some point during the process of creating this type of meat, there was pork involved, but this is not a ham sandwich, okay? This is a bunch of lies between two pieces of bread. I'm sick of eating hot dogs, okay?
It's 40 June and we have wonderful evening in Germany.
With this perfect man, with the name poker. This is Saltimbocca Romagna, Italian medaillon with white wine sauce special for you.
And I'm drinking a Montepulciano, an Italian red wine that is magnifico.
One morning, I decided to explore the trail past the Marienbrücke, or Queen Mary's Bridge, which is one of the most photogenic and popular angles from which to shoot the castle, and was treated to a delightful and challenging 5-hour hiking adventure that wound and switchbacked itself all the way up to the top of Tegelberg Mountain.
In search of even more jaw-dropping angles to shoot Neuschwanstein Castle from, look at this rooty-tooty path I'm about to climb up. This is so awesome! The area around this castle is ridiculously enchanting. Listen to these songbirds. I mean, do you get more fairy tale than that? You know, these mountains aren't just funny, they're hill areas. Well, that hike was pretty challenging, but boy was it worth it. Look at that.